The sun was still low when the road shimmered like quiet fire. A lone monk walked barefoot through dust that glowed gold. His robe caught the wind like breath itself. A traveler stepped out from the shade. Eyes sharp, voice cutting through dawn. "Who are you?" The question hung in the still air, heavy yet clear. Can peace walk through pride? Can silence answer curiosity? The monk stopped, turned, and met the gaze without a word. For a moment, even the wind forgot to move. And as the traveler's heart raced, he felt the ground beneath his feet for the first time in years. Anatta, walking a few steps behind, sensed the pause and slowed his breath. The world seemed to hold itself in waiting. The traveler's question echoed deeper than curiosity. It sounded like the ache of every mind seeking to be known. Anatta watched, heart steady, knowing his teacher's silence would soon reveal more than words could carry. The traveler's voice grew firm. "Are you a god?" he asked. "A saint? A man?" Each word struck like a stone tossed into a still pond. The monk's gaze did not waver. Instead, his silence seemed to widen until the words themselves began to fade. The crowd leaned in, searching his face for something beyond answer. The Buddha's eyes met the traveler's, neither defying nor yielding. The moment stretched thin like silk in sunlight. Even the hum of insects dimmed. Then came only the sound of wind brushing over their robes, carrying a peace that began to loosen the tension in the crowd's chest. A gentle smile crossed the Buddha's face. Not of victory, but of seeing. It was as if he looked through the man, through the question, through the endless need to name what cannot be named. The traveler swallowed his next word. For the first time, silence didn't feel empty. It felt full. The story was only beginning. In the cool shade of the banyan grove, Jetta followed the Buddha, still burning with pride. "I am Jetta, son of priests, learned in the Vedas," he said. His voice rang like brass, bright, loud, but hollow. The Buddha listened without judgment. The forest was quiet, except for the hum of bees, and the sound of his words slowly losing weight. Beneath that canopy, truth waited like light behind leaves, ready to break through when pride grew thin. The Buddha turned to him gently. "Jetta," he asked, "when you say, 'I,' what do you mean? The body? The mind? The feeling that says, 'mine'?" The question slid between them like clear water. Jetta hesitated. For the first time, his certainty wavered. His lips moved, but no sound came. The word, "E," had become too heavy to lift. From the path beyond, a woman's sobs broke the stillness. Mira entered, clay dust on her hands, eyes red with loss. She had lost her child to fever, and grief clung to her like shadow. "Tell me," she whispered, "who am I now, when what I love is gone?" The question trembled in the air, deeper than doctrine, reaching a place words could not touch. Anatta approached, listening from behind a curtain of vines. He had heard many names given to his teacher, sage, god, dreamer, but in moments like this, none fit. The silence between questions and answers felt wider than the sky. He realized that perhaps the truest teaching was not spoken but seen. The Buddha's voice rose like calm wind. "Do not seek to name what is always changing," he said. "Look instead at what sees the change." His gaze moved from Jetta to Mira. "That seeing is not yours or mine, it simply is." The grove fell into silence, yet that silence began to teach. And in that stillness, the first veil of identity began to fall. As dusk drew near, the Buddha sat with the small gathering under the banyan roots. His voice, soft as wind through reeds, told a parable. "There is a house on fire," he said, "and inside, people cling to their possessions, thinking they can be saved with them." Jetta felt heat rise in his chest. Mira's eyes flickered with fear. The Buddha's gaze moved across them, clear, unwavering, like someone pointing not to flames outside but within. Jetta's face hardened. You speak of fire, he said, but I see no smoke. The Buddha looked at him, his eyes kind. The fire of wanting, of fearing, of saying, mine. Can you not feel its heat? Jetta's lips parted, breath quickened. For a moment the question struck deeper than argument, and his silence became heavier than pride. The Buddha invited everyone to close their eyes. Feel the body, he said. Do not think of it as yours, just notice. Mira obeyed first. The sound of her breath mingled with crickets and the rustle of leaves. Each inhale softened her grief. Each exhale carried away a name. The forest itself seemed to breathe with her. As silence grew thick, Jetta opened his eyes. His anger had nowhere left to stand. The Buddha's calm was not a wall. It was a mirror. For the first time, he saw his own restlessness reflected back. The sound of his heartbeat seemed to echo through the grove, loud and human, yet strangely empty of why. The Buddha opened his eyes and spoke softly. When a flame burns, we say fire, yet it is only wood and wind. The crowd listened, still as stone. In the same way, what we call a person is only body and thought and feeling, changing, moving, never one thing. Jetta's shoulders dropped. Mira's tears glistened like dew. In the quiet that followed, each heart felt the edge of letting go. At dawn they walked toward the river. Mist curled over the surface like memory refusing to fade. The Buddha stood on the bank, watching ripples spread from a falling leaf. All things move, he said softly, even the seeing of movement. The group gathered behind him, their reflections trembling in the water. Mira knelt, touching the surface, and for a breath, she could not tell where her hand ended and the river began. The Buddha pointed to the flowing water. Look closely, he said. Can you hold it? Jetta crouched, cupping his palms, but the water slipped away. It does not stay, the Buddha whispered, and neither do you. The words struck softly but sank deep. The river became more than water. It became a mirror of everything they clung to. Form, feeling, perception, thought, and awareness. The Buddha said, tracing circles in the sand with a twig, these are the five, each flowing, none a self. His voice was steady as the current beside them. Mira watched the lines blur in wind and smiled faintly, as if something inside her was learning to breathe again. Jetta stared into the water until his own reflection dissolved in ripples. For a moment, he could not find himself. Only movement, only light. Panic rose, then faded, replaced by something strangely peaceful. The Buddha said nothing, only watched. The silence between them became a bridge, carrying Jetta from thought into sea. The Buddha stepped closer to the river and let his hand rest just above its flow. The river does not stop being the river because it changes, he said. So too with you. Change is not loss, it is life. The air turned still. Mira closed her eyes. Jetta bowed his head. In the quiet, rippling light, something wordless began to open inside them both. Dark clouds gathered as they left the riverbank. The first drops fell softly, then all at once, the sky opening like a wound. Villagers nearby ran for cover, calling to each other over the wind. The Buddha stood still beneath the banyan tree, rain soaking his robe but his eyes calm, watching nature's fury as if it were a sermon spoken by the sky itself. A woman's cry cut through the storm. Mira's, a child is missing, she shouted, voice breaking in the wind. Panic rippled through the group as thunder rolled across the sky. The Buddha turned, scanning the field. His calmness did not break. It deepened, like the eye of the storm itself. Do not run in fear, the Buddha said, his voice steady over the thunder. Move with awareness. The word spread faster than the storm itself. Men and women paused, gathered breath, then began searching calmly, each step deliberate, each call mindful. Even Jetta moved with new steadiness. the fire of his pride replaced by focus. A small cry came from beneath a fallen branch. Mira rushed forward, lifting it with trembling hands. A boy, no older than 7, looked up, frightened but alive. The Buddha stepped beside her, his eyes soft. "Fear cannot stop rain," he said gently, "but calm can see through it." The storm seemed to bow, its voice softening to drizzle. As the clouds thinned, the Buddha looked upon the soaked faces around him. "You searched with fear," he said, "but found through calm." Jeta nodded, rain sliding from his hair. "I thought strength was shouting," he murmured, "but it was breathing." The Buddha smiled faintly. The storm passed, leaving only ripples and puddles and quiet hearts newly clear. That night, lamps flickered in a wide circle around the Buddha. The storm had passed, and the earth smelled of rain and ash. Villagers sat in stillness, eyes reflecting the trembling light. The Buddha looked at each face, from the proud to the grieving, and said softly, "The fire has burned. The water has flowed. What remains?" No one spoke. Only the night waited, like an open page ready for truth. The Buddha's voice rose like wind over calm water. "Not this, not that," he said. "Not form, not feeling, not name, not thought." The crowd listened as if hearing their own minds echoed back. "When all these pass," he continued, "what is left cannot be owned, cannot be named." Mira felt tears, but they were not from grief. They were from seeing what does not die. Jeta leaned forward. "Then what are you?" he whispered, voice shaking. The Buddha looked at him long, eyes deep as night sky. "Awake," he said simply. The word fell like a bell into still water, sending circles outward through every heart. It was not a title, not a claim, just truth made plain. Silence fell deeper than sound. The villagers looked at one another, not sure if they had heard something divine or simply real. Ananda closed his eyes, heart swelling. He realized that the teaching was not in the words, but in the seeing, clear, ungrasping kind. The wind stirred the lamps, and for a moment, it seemed the night itself bowed. The Buddha slowly stood, his robe glistening with the faint light of dying lamps. "Do not remember me as a name," he said, "but as the seeing that awakens in you." Then he looked toward the dark horizon, where dawn would soon rise. The fire, the river, the storm. Each had spoken. Now only peace remained, vast and wordless. Morning returned, clean and quiet. The storm's memory shimmered in droplets hanging from every leaf. Mist lifted from the ground as birds began their slow songs. The Buddha walked alone through the wet grass, each step leaving a print that filled with water. The world looked washed new, as if the sky itself had listened and let go. Jeta approached slowly, eyes humbled yet bright. "Master," he said, "if I am not this body, nor this name, how should I live?" The Buddha turned to him, the faintest smile on his lips. "Live awake," he said. "When you walk, know you walk. When you breathe, know you breathe. That knowing is freedom." Jeta bowed deeply, and the dust beneath his forehead felt cool and kind. Nearby, Mira gathered her clay pots, washing them clean in the river. Each ripple caught a reflection of the sky, and she smiled, seeing how water held the world without holding anything. "Grief has no roots," she whispered, "only echoes." The Buddha passed behind her, silent, yet his presence made the world itself feel lighter. Ananda lingered at the edge of the grove, his eyes following every detail. The wet leaves, the footprints, the quiet faces now free of strain. He knew this moment would fade like all others, yet something inside him whispered, "It's enough." He gathered the Buddha's words like light in his heart, knowing they would live beyond sound. The Buddha paused at the edge of the path and looked back once more. His footprints shimmered on the wet earth, each one slowly filling with water until they vanished. Names fade, His voice echoed gently, "But awakening does not." The wind moved softly through the grass as he walked on, leaving only stillness and the sound of peace learning to breathe.